I still remember the exact moment I realized I was in love with him. It wasn't during some grand romantic gesture or dramatic confession. It was standing at a grimy bus station window, watching Miles get absolutely soaked in the pouring rain, his arm raised in a wave he knew I probably couldn't even see anymore. That's when it hit me, like a freight train. This quiet, gentle man had somehow become everything to me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning, back when Miles was just the new guy at work, and I was completely oblivious to what was about to happen to my carefully ordered life. I met Miles on a Tuesday in September. I remember because Tuesdays were when our marketing team had those soul-crushing budget meetings, and I was already dreading the day before it even started. I grabbed my usual coffee from the shop downstairs, black with 1 sugar, and headed up to the office. That's when I saw him standing by the elevators, looking slightly lost, holding a visitor badge and a leather messenger bag that had seen better days. He had this messy, dark hair that looked like he'd forgotten to comb it, wire-rimmed glasses that kept sliding down his nose, and he was wearing a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. There was something about him that made me look twice. Not in the way I'd trained myself to ignore over the years, but something different. Something that made my stomach do this weird flip. "Lost?" I asked, walking up to him. He turned and smiled. And God, that smile. It was crooked, a little shy, and it reached his eyes in a way that made them crinkle at the corners. Is it that obvious? I'm supposed to start today, marketing department, but this building is like a maze. "You're the new content strategist," I said, suddenly remembering the email from HR. "Miles, right? I'm Reed. I'm on the same team." "Oh, thank God," he laughed, and his laugh was warm and genuine. I was about to wander around until someone took pity on me. I showed him to our floor, introduced him around, helped him get settled at the desk next to mine. And that was it. That was how it started. Just 2 guys working side by side. Nothing special, nothing unusual. Except I found myself noticing things. The way he chewed on his pen when he was thinking. How he always brought lunch from home in these mismatched containers. The fact that he hummed under his breath when he was concentrating, usually songs I didn't recognize. We fell into an easy friendship. Miles was easy to talk to, easy to be around. He didn't do the usual office small talk. Instead, he'd ask real questions. "What's something you believed as a kid that you're embarrassed about now?" Or, "If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would bore you the most?" He made me laugh in a way I hadn't in years. About a month in, we started having lunch together. Not every day, but most days. We'd go to this little sandwich place around the corner, or when the weather was nice, grab something and eat in the park across the street. I started looking forward to those lunches more than I wanted to admit. Started paying attention to what time it was, wondering if he'd stop by my desk with that expectant look that meant, ready to escape this place for an hour. One afternoon in October, we were sitting on a park bench, and Miles was telling me about his weekend. He'd gone to some art gallery opening with friends, and he was describing this painting he'd seen, his hands moving as he talked, his whole face animated. And I realized I wasn't really listening to what he was saying. I was just watching him. Watching the way the autumn sunlight caught in his hair, the way his glasses had slid down his nose again, and he pushed them up without thinking, the way his eyes lit up when he talked about things he cared about. And then, he said something that made me actually hear his words again. My ex used to hate gallery openings, said they were pretentious. But I don't know, I like them. I like seeing what moves people, you know? X. He'd said X, not she. Just X. And my heart started beating faster because I wanted to know, needed to know, but couldn't figure out how to ask without revealing why I was asking. "Must be nice," I said instead, having someone to go to those things with. Miles shrugged. We broke up 6 months ago. It's fine, though. We wanted different things. He paused, then added quietly. He wanted to stay closeted at work. Keep everything separate. I couldn't do that anymore. I'm tired of hiding who I am. He'd said he. And just like that, something shifted. The world tilted slightly on its axis. Miles was gay. Miles was openly gay. And I was sitting here with my heart hammering in my chest, trying to act normal, trying not to show that this information had just changed everything and nothing all at once. That makes sense, I managed to say. You shouldn't have to hide. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I wondered what he saw. Could he tell? Could he see the way my hands were shaking slightly? The way I couldn't quite meet his eyes? But he just smiled that gentle smile and said, "Thanks, Reed. That means a lot." After that day, I couldn't stop thinking about him. It was like someone had turned on a light in a room I'd kept dark for years. Suddenly I was noticing everything. The way my pulse quickened when he walked into the office in the morning. How I found excuses to stop by his desk. The fact that I'd started dressing a little nicer. Caring about things I'd never cared about before. I'd known I was gay since college. Had a couple of brief relationships that fizzled out. Convinced myself I was fine being alone. That it was easier that way. I didn't hide exactly, but I didn't advertise either. I existed in this comfortable middle ground where I never had to confront it head on. But Miles made me want to confront it. Made me want to be brave. We started spending more time together outside of work. It happened gradually, naturally. He mentioned a movie he wanted to see. I said I'd been meaning to see it too. We went on a Friday night and afterward grabbed drinks at a bar nearby. We talked for hours, about everything and nothing. His childhood in Portland, my complicated relationship with my parents, books we loved, places we wanted to travel. He told me about coming out in high school, how hard it was, how freeing. I listened and wondered if I'd ever have that courage. "What about you?" he asked at one point, nursing his second beer. "Are you seeing anyone?" My throat went dry. This was it. This was the moment. I could tell him. I could be honest. But the words stuck in my throat, heavy and impossible. "No," I said. "Not really my thing, I guess." "Dating." Something flickered across his face, too quick for me to read. "Yeah, I get that. It's exhausting." I went home that night and lay awake for hours, replaying the conversation, hating myself for chickening out. What was I afraid of? That he wouldn't be interested? That it would make things weird? That I'd lose the best friendship I'd had in years? All of the above, probably. The weeks turned into months. Fall became winter. We developed routines, inside jokes. He'd bring me coffee in the morning, somehow always remembering that I took it black with 1 sugar. I'd save him the good chair in meetings. We'd text each other stupid memes during boring presentations. Once, during a particularly dull conference call, he sent me a message that just said, "If you hear a loud thud, I've died of boredom. Please tell my plants I love them." I had to mute myself to keep from laughing out loud. December came, and with it, the office holiday party. I almost didn't go. I hate those things. All forced cheer and awkward small talk. But Miles mentioned he was going, and suddenly I was RS, VPing yes, and stressing about what to wear. The party was at some trendy downtown venue, all exposed brick and string lights. I got there late, already regretting my decision, and immediately started looking for Miles in the crowd. I found him by the bar, talking to Sarah from accounting, and when he saw me, his whole face lit up. "Reed, You made it. I was starting to think you'd bailed. Thought about it, I admitted. These things aren't really my scene. Mine either, he said, moving closer so I could hear him over the music. Want to grab a drink and hide in the corner together? We spent the next 2 hours doing exactly that, drinking too much of the mediocre wine, making fun of the playlist, watching our co-workers get progressively more drunk. At some point, someone turned up the music and people started dancing. Miles watched them with this wistful expression. You want to dance? I asked before I could think better of it. He looked at me, surprised. You dance? Not well, but I've had enough wine not to care. His smile could have powered the entire city. Okay then. We moved to the makeshift dance floor, and I was suddenly very aware of how close we were standing. The song was something slow, which somehow made it worse and better at the same time. Miles was a good dancer, confident in a way I wasn't. He moved easily, unself-consciously, and when he put his hand on my shoulder, I thought my heart might actually stop. This okay? He asked, his voice close to my ear. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. We swayed together, and I let myself have this moment. Let myself imagine, just for a few minutes, that this meant what I wanted it to mean. That his hand on my shoulder was more than friendly. That the way he was looking at me meant something. The song ended too soon. Miles stepped back, and the moment was gone. But his smile remained. Thanks for the dance. Any time, I said, and meant it more than he could know. We left the party together, stepping out into the cold December night. Snow was starting to fall, light and delicate, catching in Miles's hair. We stood on the sidewalk, neither of us quite ready to say goodbye. I'm really glad you came tonight, Miles said. I know these things aren't your favorite, but it meant a lot. Having you there. I'm glad I came too. We stood there a moment longer, and I thought about kissing him. Thought about closing the distance between us. About finally being brave. But then a taxi pulled up, and Miles was saying he should go, and the moment passed. I thought about that almost kiss for weeks. Replayed it in my mind, imagined different endings. Told myself next time I'd be braver. Next time I wouldn't hesitate. January came, grey and cold. Work was busy, everyone scrambling to meet New Year deadlines. Miles and I still had our lunches, still texted throughout the day, but something felt different. Or maybe I was just more aware of my feelings now, of how much space he took up in my thoughts. Then, one Friday afternoon, Miles stopped by my desk looking upset. Can we talk? Maybe grab coffee? My stomach dropped. This was it. He'd figured it out. Noticed the way I looked at him. Was going to let me down gently. Tell me he valued our friendship too much. We went to the coffee shop downstairs, found a quiet corner. Miles wrapped his hands around his cup and took a deep breath. I got a job offer in Seattle. Of all the things I'd expected him to say, that wasn't it. Seattle? Yeah, it's a good opportunity. More money, better position. I'd be stupid not to take it. He wasn't looking at me. I'm supposed to start in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. 21 days. And then he'd be gone, 2,000 miles away. And I'd never told him. Never been brave enough to say the words. That's great, I heard myself say. Really great. You should definitely take it. Yeah? He finally looked up, and there was something in his eyes I couldn't read. You think so? No, I wanted to scream. Don't go. Stay here. Stay with me. But instead I smiled and said, absolutely. It's a great opportunity. Something shifted in his expression. Disappointment, maybe, but he covered it quickly. Right. Yeah, that's what I thought. The next 3 weeks were torture. I kept meaning to tell him, kept finding moments where I could, should, would say something. But I never did. I was a coward. Every lunch, every coffee break, every time we stayed late working on a project together, I told myself, this was it. This was the moment. And then I'd chicken out. His last day came too fast. The office threw him a small goodbye party, cake and well wishes and promises to keep in touch that we all knew most people wouldn't keep. I hung back, watching him smile and laugh and hug people, and felt like I was watching my chance at happiness walk away. After the party, after everyone else had left, it was just us in the office. Miles was packing up the last of his things, and I was helping, neither of us talking much. "I'm going to miss this," he said quietly, wrapping a framed photo in newspaper. "Miss, working with you. I'll miss you too." The words felt inadequate, too small for what I was feeling. He stopped packing and looked at me. "Reed, I have to ask you something, and you can tell me if I'm completely off base here." My heart started racing. "Okay. These past few months, I thought maybe—" He paused, ran a hand through his hair. "Did I misread things? Between us?" I stared at him. He was giving me an opening, a chance. "What do you mean?" "Come on, Reed. The lunches, the late nights, the party. I thought maybe you felt it too. This connection." He laughed, but it sounded pained. "But you never said anything, never gave me a clear sign, so I figured I was just seeing what I wanted to see." "Miles," my voice came out rough, "I didn't think you'd be interested." "Are you kidding? Reed, I've been interested since the day we met. I just didn't know if you—" He trailed off, understanding dawning on his face. "Wait. Are you saying what I think you're saying?" This was it. The moment I'd been too scared to create, handed to me on a silver platter. "Be brave," I told myself. "For once in your life, be brave." "I'm saying I've been falling for you for months. I'm saying I think about you constantly. I'm saying I should have told you sooner, should have been honest. But I was scared." The words tumbled out, unstoppable now that I'd started. "I'm saying I don't want you to go." Miles closed the distance between us in 2 steps. "Then why didn't you say something?" "Because I'm an idiot. Because I was afraid. Because I've spent so long playing it safe that I forgot how to take a risk." I looked at him, really looked at him. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Reed." He reached up, touched my face gently. "I'm leaving tomorrow. My bus leaves at 2. "I know. So what do we do?" I didn't have an answer. We stood there in the empty office. Everything unsaid, finally said. And it was too late. Too late by 3 weeks. By a job offer. By my own cowardice. "Come with me tonight," Miles said suddenly. "I'm meeting some friends for drinks. One last hurrah. Come with me. Let's have tonight at least." So I did. I went with him to a bar in Capitol Hill, met his friends who welcomed me warmly, clearly having heard about me. We drank and talked and laughed, and under the table, Miles's knee pressed against mine, his hand finding mine in the spaces between conversations. It wasn't enough. Could never be enough. But it was something. We left the bar around midnight, walking slowly through the quiet streets. Neither of us wanted the night to end. "I could stay," Miles said as we reached his apartment. "Turn down the job. Stay here." "No." I shook my head firmly. "You can't do that. This is your dream job, Miles. You can't give that up. Not even for this. For us. We don't even know what this is yet." He smiled sadly. "I know what it is for me. I'm in love with you, Reed. I have been for months." The words I'd wanted to hear, finally spoken, and they broke my heart. I love you too. Which is why you have to go. Take the job. Don't let me be the reason you don't chase your dreams. We stood outside his building, and I kissed him. Finally kissed him. It was gentle and desperate and perfect and heartbreaking all at once. When we pulled apart, there were tears on both our faces. I should go, I whispered. Stay. Please stay tonight. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I shook my head. It'll only make tomorrow harder. He understood. He always understood. Will you come see me off? At the bus station? Of course. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay in bed, replaying everything, wondering if I was making a huge mistake, wondering if love was worth the risk of long distance, of uncertainty, of potential heartbreak. By morning, I still didn't have answers. I met him at the bus station at 1:30. He was already there, looking tired, his bags at his feet. When he saw me, he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You came. I said I would. We sat on a bench, not talking much, just being together. At 1:50, they called for boarding. Miles stood, picked up his bags. This isn't how I wanted this to end, he said. It doesn't have to be the end. He looked at me hopefully. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't have all the answers. I'm saying long distance is hard and scary, and I don't know if I'm brave enough for it. But I'm saying maybe we try. Maybe we figure it out. His smile was like sunrise. Yeah? Yeah. They called final boarding. Miles leaned in, kissed me quickly. I'll call you when I get there. You better. I watched him board the bus, find his seat. He waved from the window and I waved back. The bus pulled away, and I started walking to my car, already feeling the distance growing between us. But then I looked back. I don't know why. Some impulse, some need for one last glimpse. And there he was, standing on the platform outside the bus station, his bags dropped at his feet, completely soaked from the rain that had started falling. He was waving, his arm raised high, even though my car was already pulling away, even though he had to know I couldn't see him clearly anymore. That's when I knew. This man, this wonderful, ridiculous man, who stood in the rain just to wave goodbye to me one more time, was worth every risk, worth the fear, worth the uncertainty, worth everything. I pulled over, grabbed my phone and called him. Reed, are you okay? I saw you, standing in the rain. You looked back. His voice was soft, wondering. I looked back. Miles, I'm not good at this, at being vulnerable, at taking risks. But I want to try. I want to try with you. Even though I'm 2,000 miles away, especially because you're 2,000 miles away, because you're worth it, because what we have is worth it. I could hear the smile in his voice. I'm completely soaked, you know, standing in the rain like an idiot. You're my idiot. Yeah, he said softly. I am. That was 6 months ago. 6 months of video calls and text messages and plane tickets. 6 months of learning how to love someone from a distance. It's not easy. There are hard days, lonely nights, moments when the distance feels impossible. But then Miles will send me a photo of his morning coffee, or we'll fall asleep on video call together, or I'll get a package in the mail with some ridiculous inside joke gift. And I remember why we're doing this. Next month, I'm moving to Seattle. I got a job offer last week, and I accepted it yesterday. Miles doesn't know yet. I'm going to surprise him, show up at his door with my bags and finally closed this distance between us, because he stood in the rain to wave goodbye to my bus, because he loved me enough to let me figure things out at my own pace, because when I finally look back, he was still there, still waiting, still believing in us even when I didn't believe in myself. That's what love is, I think. It's standing in the rain, it's looking back, it's being brave enough to take the risk, to say the words, to choose each other over and over again. I just wish I'd figured that out sooner. But maybe the timing was always meant to be like this. Maybe we both needed to be ready, to be brave enough for this. All I know is that I'm done being afraid. I'm done playing it safe. Because Miles taught me that some things are worth the risk. Some people are worth everything.